My husband eats whatever he wants, never exercises, and somehow stays the same weight he's been since college. Meanwhile, I look at a piece of bread the wrong way and gain 2 pounds. Is that actually real, or am I just making excuses?
Yeah. The first answer that comes to mind from this, is there's a reason why women live longer than men. So yeah, this guy, stays the same weight, eats all kinds of whatever he wants. That doesn't necessarily translate to health, though. Like, okay,
100%.
I was thinking of this the other
Yeah.
day in terms of your fiber post that you had put up on social media and how it's going to be the new thing. And I thought, well,
Yeah.
okay, you know, you could totally, instead of having adequate fiber, just like have coffee and a cigarette for breakfast. That'll get things moving. It doesn't necessarily translate to, in good health. I'm not promoting that, by the way. This is me being facetious. Please do not do that. But, just because something translates to a particular result doesn't necessarily mean it's the best choice or the best thing for you to do when it comes to longevity and
Mm,
lifespan.
yeah. Yeah. Also, we don't know much. I mean, this is all the information that we have, right? So we don't really have much information about what specifically the husband is doing here. Now, I will say this: whenever somebody says, "Oh, they just eat whatever they want," they're not typically talking about eating lots of salads. They're talking about
Fair.
eating lots of cookies and lots of ice cream and lots of processed foods.
Mm.
Right? That's what eating whatever somebody wants usually looks like. Never exercises, yeah. Okay. I mean, okay, maybe as you said, coach, this person's staying the same weight, but what are the long-term health outcomes going to be?
Hmm.
I
Even
saw. Go
I was
ahead,
going to
coach. Yeah, go
mention,
ahead.
sorry, staying this. We've spoken about this before on the podcast. Weight isn't just the number. So you can be the exact same weight, but your composition is changing. Maybe your husband is still 200 pounds or 225 pounds. However, his composition has changed from being, 20% fat and 80% muscle. And now it's
Mm,
50% 50% fat, 50% muscle. That's not translating into good health long term. We know this. So just because the numbers there doesn't mean that what you're comprised of is also going to translate to long term health.
yeah, absolutely. I saw a post. Really wish I could remember this because then I could link it in the show notes. If I can remember it by the time I edit and then post this episode, I'll put it in the show notes. But it was a graph showing three groups of people and the age at which they were too frail to be able to look after themselves, like the
Mm.
frailty level, right? Now, for people who are sedentary, never exercised, never did yard work, never got enough steps, never went to the gym, that group of people, it was about mid 60s where they were just too frail to take care of themselves.
Mm.
People who stayed active, they went on walks, they did gardening, but they didn't strength train, it was like mid 70s. People who strength trained as well as doing all those other things, it was like deep into their 80s, if not longer, that they
Mm.
actually had independence because they were just strong enough to take care of themselves. So by eating whatever somebody wants, being sedentary, never strength training, they're getting away with it now.
Mm.
Yeah. But yeah, so the amount of quotes that I've read from people in their 60s and 70s who say something like, "Oh, I wish I'd taken care of myself earlier. I really wish I'd exercised more consistently."
I'd be
Because,
curious. Sorry,
mm,
go ahead, please finish your thought.
no, no, no,
I
go ahead.
spoke over you. I was going to say, I'd be curious to know how many listeners this would resonate with, because a lot of our listeners are, very ambitious moms who do
Mm,
all the things. I would be curious to know how many of them would say and align with those people who are deep into their 80s before they're too frail to take care of themselves. I don't have time for that shit. I can't get sick. I got things to do, right? Like, there is too much happening for me to slow down to still keep all the plates spinning.
mm,
It's about the amount of responsibilities you have that are things that you also enjoy too. Like, my grandfather took care of his garden well into his late 60s, early 70s,
mm.
right? So, and that was his thing because he had those things to do. So the
Yeah,
less this is the strength training principle of, if you don't use it, you lose it. The less you do, the less you can get done. But the more you do, the more capacity you will be able to maintain to be able to continue to do the things that you are doing and more.
yeah. Like half an hour twice a week. It's not a huge time demand. let's look at the second part of the question. Meanwhile, I look at a piece of bread the wrong way and gain 2 pounds. Okay, so one of the main differences between a typical couple, husband and wife, is that the husband tends to be heavier than the wife. Not always, but usually. Men
Mm.
in general are bigger than women. Again, generally speaking. The average male in North America, actually, let me pull up the current numbers. Um, Average American male versus female weight. Okay, according to Google, according to the CDC, the average American male weighs 199 pounds and the average American female weighs 171 pounds. Okay, so there's almost a 30-pound difference there. Somebody who weighs more can eat more and not gain weight. That's ultimately what it comes down to. Somebody who weighs more can eat more and not gain weight. Plus the fact that men naturally have more muscle than women, larger muscles. More of their weight is muscle, which is more metabolically active tissue than fat,
Which burns more calories in a day
which,
when you're going through your
which burns more
activities of daily
calories.
living.
Absolutely. So, because the husband is burning more calories, he can just get away with more. It's as simple and as unfair as that. Yeah. And it's also why men tend to lose more absolute weight than women if they're losing weight at the same time. And I believe men do lose a greater percentage at the beginning as well than women on average. But over the course of 12 to 24 weeks or so, the percentage of weight lost is about the same in men and women.
Yes.
But because men usually have a higher starting weight, the absolute number will be bigger.
This is so a parallel to this too would be like absolute strength versus relative strength. That is what comes
Mm.
to mind here. So someone who weighs 200 pounds can do a 200-pound deadlift. That's lifting your body weight. Someone who weighs 150 pounds and lifts 200 pounds, that's obviously more. So it's the same weight being moved. However, the percentage is going to be much higher in terms of relative strength.
Yeah.
So that would translate to you technically being stronger. However, it's still the same weight on the bar. So we have to look at the individual.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Let's also think about the average age of the people that we work with. And from the information that I have, which I think is estimated largely by Spotify and Apple Podcasts, most people listening to this are in their 40s. Women in their 40s start to go through perimenopause, hormonal changes, the impact on sleep, higher stress. Although men often also go through the higher stress. So let's focus more on the perimenopause symptoms. When sleep is poor, hunger is going to be greater. So there's going to be these extra bites and tastes of things that just happen. Also, if sleep is poor and you're constantly holding on to the water retention from the poor sleep that you're experiencing, yeah, it's going to feel like, you have one bad meal. One quote unquote bad meal where you're off track. You have a poor night of sleep and the scale is up 2 or 3 pounds the next day. Right. But it's more about the water fluctuations, the poor sleep. So I think it's a combination of things, coach. I think it's a combination of the husband most likely weighing more and burning more calories at rest. And if they're eating the same and he's not gaining weight, but then she is eating the same kind of portion sizes and gaining weight, that would make sense. She doesn't need as many calories to maintain. And then we've got the perimenopause symptoms, the poor sleep that can be happening, which can definitely make it feel like, oh shit, I gained like 3 pounds on the scale in the last 4 days. So I want to acknowledge that it is real to an extent, and this person is not just making excuses.
Not at all.
No.
These are very real things. Like all those things
Yeah.
you just mentioned are extremely legitimate. And
Mm.
we also know that women tend to care more about their health, their physique, all these things. It's just part of the culture, part of the societal norm.
Statistically, that's what we have. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So for you to be more conscientious or concerned or being more aware of what is my body doing, what is going like you have a menstrual cycle that perpetually reminds you where you are throughout the month. So you have more awareness than like we just basically float around and exist as men, essentially. So we don't have those same things. Like if we notice something is bothering us in our body, we chalk it up to whatever and don't say anything about it because we just kind of go on with our day, not really thinking I should go to the doctor and I should get that
Yeah.
checked out. It's just, oh, we'll see what happens in 2, 3 weeks and then wait till it's a
Another
problem to
reason
do
why men
something.
don't live as long. We make poor decisions like that. Yes.
Yes, exactly. So 9 times out of 10, I'm convinced, this is anecdotal, obviously. 9 times out of 10, I'm convinced anytime a man does go to a doctor, get something checked out or looked at, it's because his wife drove him to go and do it. So, you have all of these built-in mechanisms that are features, not flaws, to tell you, hey, this thing is going on with your body, do something about it, or let's listen to what's going on. And that's also going to make you much more aware of what's happening, even the micro changes that you're noticing, like water retention, like a poor night of sleep, even if it's just subtle, very much it's much more sensitive around that.
Mm, absolutely. Anything else we can add to this, coach?
Hmm. The part about looking at a piece of bread the wrong way and gain 2 pounds, I'm looking at that for many reasons.
Mm, yeah.
One, because obviously I also love bread.
Yep.
Um,
Me
but
too.
more so, there's if you were to dig into this, this would be indicative, or I would say that it suggests that this person has a relationship with food of good food, bad food, right? And if that's the
Potentially,
case,
yeah.
then yeah, we can maybe assume here, and this would be a strong assumption, this person isn't either tracking calories to manage their energy intake. It would like you had mentioned too. Okay, if we're just having the same portion sizes because we're just plating our food at dinner equally, yeah, you're going to be in a surplus in terms of your calories, right? So these are things that you have to consider. And even if you were to change your portion sizes and you make them smaller, if you run a deficit long enough, and if it's too big of a deficit, that's going to affect all the things you just mentioned. Poor sleep because you're undernutritioned, right? It's going to translate to worse food decisions to the point where, okay, this deficit's running so hard that at some point you crack and break and then go completely off track for a duration of time that translates to more weight gain, getting you into the cycle of trying again. But this time you're going to double down and you're going to try harder and you're going to go into an even bigger deficit. And it's this cycle that is never ending and never actually translates to any long term results because it's not specific in terms of how you're approaching it.
Yeah. There are a couple of episodes I want to recommend to this person. Episode 50, which is
Hmm.
our just over 2 hour long episode where we go into everything that you need to do to lose weight and keep it off. Right? It was like a big episode there. So definitely go back and listen to episode number 50, the complete guide to losing weight sustainably. And then listen to number 58, how to lose weight in perimenopause when nothing works. So listen to episodes number 50 and number 58. Maybe finish listening to this episode first. Download number 50, number 58, and listen to those. And we go into everything that you need to do. Cool. Okay, let's answer this question. Hey, quick break. This podcast is free. It has no sponsors, and I want to keep it that way. So if you're a woman over 40 and you know what to do, but you just aren't doing it, tap the link in the show notes, which is rosentrain.com/coaching, and book a complimentary 15-minute strategy call with me. Now, back to it. I've started strength training, like you guys always talk about. Nice job. But I'm not seeing my weights go down on the scale. If anything, it went up a little. Am I doing something wrong, or is this normal?
What are your
What do
thoughts,
you think,
coach?
coach?
I
What are
beat
my
you to it,
thoughts?
buddy. Yeah.
I think it's completely normal. Um, Especially again, if this person is around the average age of the people that we work with and people who listen to this, which is 40s, and they haven't strength trained recently, if ever. And as we've said before, from age 30, we lose 3 to 8% of our muscle mass per decade if we're not strength training. And when you do eventually start to strength train, you rebuild that muscle. And rebuilding muscle happens faster and easier than building brand new muscle for the first time.
Hmm.
So the weight not moving is most likely, the weight not moving, going up a little bit, it's almost certainly muscle that you rebuilt. A bit of water as well, maybe in the muscle cells as part of the recovery process from your strength training. And as long as your measurements are going down, like if clothes are fitting you better, you're losing body fat. So if those things are happening, keep doing what you're doing because it's working. What would you disagree with me there, coach, about?
I don't think I would disagree with any of that, really.
Cool.
When you when you think of it, okay, so you're going to start strength training. That's going to lead to an increase in energy expenditure,
Mhm.
which is also going to make you need to quote unquote need to eat more. You're doing more work, so you're going to have to fuel that. Then on top of that, your muscles are now taking in more nutrients, like you mentioned, because they need to recover. So of course you're going to see an increase on the scale. That's going to translate to you being causing an inflammation response because you're building muscle. And because of that, you're going to, again, retain more water, see that number go up. The more important measurement to have here is going to be what your measurements are doing, how your clothes are fitting, because that's going to translate into what we were speaking about earlier about body composition. So the number on the scale doesn't tell the whole story. If you think of metrics from an inconvenience perspective, the ones with the most friction are going to be the most valid or tell you the most. Stepping on a scale is as simple as taking a step. Taking measurements is going to require you to pull out a measuring tape, stand in front of a mirror so you know the spots you're using are accurate, go through all the measurements, write them down, store them somewhere, compare them every 2 weeks. If you got to go do a DEXA scan, which is a body scan that tells you what your body composition is, you got to book an appointment, pay for the appointment, go to the appointment, wait for the results. So the higher the friction relative to the measurement that you're doing, then the more valuable and valid it's going to be in terms of determining whether or not you're making progress. That's my opinion on it.
Mm. What would you say to somebody who's like, okay, I get it, but I'm still getting frustrated by the scale not moving?
I would say that they have to look at what the quality of the data is, right?
Mm.
Like if you're, so I'll put it this way. Say, I like making finance references. Say you're making
Sure.
$100,000 a year and you spend $50,000. Great. Cool. You're not spending $50,000 a year. Okay. Now you got a promotion. You're making $120,000 a year, but now you're spending $80,000 a year. You've now spent more than you were spending before, right? So your savings are less. Great. You get another promotion, $150,000 a year, but now your expenses are $130,000 a year. So what you're bringing in versus what is going out is not the same. Your profit or your savings are going down, right? Your life expenses are increasing. So it's the same thing here. If your weight is going up, but what you're becoming comprised of, muscle, which is a predictor of long-term health and how long you're going to live, that's what you want. That's what you're going to
Mm.
build. If you continue to put that increase in your wage into your savings, then you're going to have more for retirement. It's going to compound and have greater returns long term. So you have to look at what is the value of the number on the scale? Because if it's for you to see a lower number, again, to reference the smoking and coffee for breakfast reference I made earlier, like that's gonna translate to, okay, that means your weight is going down, not just fat, which is going to translate into more fragility long term, like you had mentioned in terms of that study you were showing or you're
Yeah.
referencing to. So is
Yep.
the goal to become more fragile and dependent on others? I don't think so. No, we're doing this to improve quality of life. And if that's the case, then that means you have to do functional strength training. You have to eat healthy. You have to prioritize sleep and all the things that translate into good long-term health habits. And that might mean you go up a pound or two in the initial stages. Translate that or extrapolate that over a longer period of time. No one's going to give a fuck what the number was on the scale other than you. They're going to care that you were present, you were healthy, you were emotionally regulated, you treated them well versus being upset that you're a number that no one cares about.
Exactly, coach. Yeah. And if it really is frustrating you, take a break from the scale.
Stop using it as a
Just,
metric.
yeah, just stop, take the batteries out. Go put it in the garage where you're not going to go and use it. Look at measurements you said every couple of weeks. Keep an eye on how clothes are fitting. Take
Mm,
progress photos every 4 weeks. So yeah, it's normal. It's to be expected. In fact, whenever I jump on a call with somebody who is thinking about, working with us, if I found out, if I find out on the call that they're going to be basically new to strength training or they're coming back to it after a long break, I will just tell them, hey, like I can't actually guarantee the number on the scale is going to drop for the first 6-ish, maybe even up to 12 weeks. Because as we get used to start strength training, you're going to build some muscle and we're going to control your fat loss with a calorie deficit, which we control with the food. And so if you're building muscle and losing fat at around the same rate at the beginning, the scale won't change much.
mm.
So I will literally tell people that. before we start working together. If I find out that they're new to strength training, and I try to figure out, okay, is that going to bother you? If so, what do we need to do? And the things that we went into before, focusing on measurements, taking a break from the scale, these are all things that we've done with our clients and that work. Yeah. Okay, Don Corleone, should we answer the final question?
Let's do it.
That wasn't an Italian reference, by the way. That was a guy with a cat on his lap reference, just to be very clear.
That's racist. Don't you dare take that out of the podcast either. I feel like with the clean shave as well, it could also be like a Dr. Evil reference.
You could be Marlon Brando in Apocalypse Now, huh?
There we go. Yeah, you know, this guy knows.
Yeah, right actor, wrong movie. Okay. By 8 p.m., I'm completely done. The kids are finally asleep, the house is quiet, and that's exactly when I want wine and whatever's in the pantry. Is there an actual fix for that, or do I just need more willpower? That's really common. And
Yeah.
in fact, it's around 8 o'clock for me in our house that both kids are finally asleep, and the washing up is done or almost done. Yeah, it's at 8 o'clock time.
Yeah, I think this is also one of those things where you've finally had an opportunity or a moment to down regulate and chill, and you have to fill your time with something. And it's in the time where you don't have things to do where you start to make really poor decisions, right? Or you just burn time for the sake of burning time, right? Like, I'm just going to scroll out on my phone. All of a sudden it's midnight.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Is there a fix, or do I need more willpower? No, I don't think the willpower is the issue here. I think the fact that you're just fucking exhausted by 8 o'clock. Physically, potentially, but definitely mentally exhausted by 8 o'clock. And coach, what is one of the first things that we do with our clients to help them with that mental exhaustion by the end of the day?
Well, there's a lot of things we do depending on the person. Most of the time, we encourage them to either do some 4-7-8 breathing to change out of their state, try to regulate themselves. We encourage them to stop looking at screens. We encourage them to, just spend time being bored for a moment. Take that time for yourself.
Those are all great fixes in the moment, but I think there's like an overarching thing that we do, that we have them start to do. What is stress management, coach?
Oh, it's planning.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, and I know that didn't come to you immediately because it's so obvious. Right, because you do it, right? We do it. All of our clients do it. It's like such a default thing at this point that we either get our clients to start doing, or if they're not doing it, or we check to see if they're doing it, and that you and I both do in our lives because we have so much to do. Planning is just obvious to us now. But I think for a lot of parents, they plan work, or maybe work is planned for them. Right? A meeting is booked and it just appears on their calendar, potentially, right? And so their work day is planned, but everything before and after, they're just winging it. They wake up, okay, what am I going to have for breakfast today? It's like, oh, no, you should have decided that about 12 hours ago. Or there should just be a breakfast that you have on repeat. Then you get the kid up. You ask it, okay, what do you want for breakfast today? I said, no, don't give them the option. Give them, okay, do you want this or that? That's it. Then you talk to your partner about, okay, who's going to take the kid to school that day? Well, that should have been figured out over the weekend. Who was going to take who, where, on what day? And then maybe because you haven't planned breakfast, you're focusing on the kid. You take the kid to school, you grab something on the way back from Tim Hortons if you're in Canada, or from Dunkin' Donuts if you're in the US. Then you get to work, or maybe you work from home. You work all morning. Then it's lunchtime. Okay, what are we going to have for lunch today? Oh, no. Again, that should have been decided at the latest this morning, preferably the night before. So you have to make another decision around what you're going to have for lunch. Then you realize, oh shit, I'm at like 300 steps for the day. I should think about when I'm going to get some steps. Well, that should have been put in your calendar. You should have decided, okay, I'm going to have this for breakfast so I can get this many steps before work. And then I'm going to block off time in my calendar to go for another walk at lunchtime. Cool. Get to the afternoon. Maybe during the afternoon, you're texting with your husband, okay, who's going to pick up which kid from what place? Again, maybe that should have been a conversation for earlier on. And then you pick up the kid, you pick up that kid. Oh shit, it's 6:30. Not even thought about dinner. Let's just order takeout. But again, on Sunday, there should have been time set aside to actually plan what dinner's going to be. And then you realize, oh, I've not done a workout today. Fuck, I didn't even think about working out. I'll just do it tomorrow. So you have been making an absolute shit ton of decisions around your breakfast, your kid's breakfast, who's going to take which kid where, what you're going to have for lunch, how you're going to get in some movement, then who's going to take which kid and pick them up from what place after work. Then you're going to make another decision around dinner. And also, I know you probably have a stressful job that's very mentally demanding. Of course, you're fucking exhausted by 8 o'clock. Of course you are. Who the fuck wouldn't be living that day to day? But you spend, let's overestimate that, you spend 20 minutes on a Sunday looking at the upcoming week, thinking about, okay, got this kid going to be at this place by that time, that place by that time. Okay, let me speak to my partner. Let's figure out now who's going to pick up which kid from where and take them to what place. And let's put it in our own calendars. Okay, great. Let me decide what dinners we're going to have this week right now. Let me write it down somewhere. Okay, great. Now, what are my lunches going to be this week? Okay, I'm going to be working from the office on this and this day. Oh, there's a good salad place. I can get like a higher protein salad these days. I can get the calories from the website. Great. Maybe even let me pre-track the lunch on those 2 days so I can make the decision right now. Okay, let me figure out a very simple breakfast I'm just going to have every day this week. Okay, you spend 20 minutes doing that. You block off time for your walking. You block off time for your workouts. You decide what your workouts are going to be. Like I said, this is going to take you 20 minutes at the most.
And you can do it while you're drinking wine.
Exactly. Exactly, coach.
Like have that like a Sunday nights to prep for my week. I have a glass of wine and I plan. Fucking
Fuck
go
yeah.
for it. Go
Fuck
nuts.
yeah.
Because
That is great.
The more you do that, the rest of the week is going to be smooth sailing. And you're gonna be like, wow, I don't feel like shit that I had that wine and just ate. I kept myself like the phrase of idle hands do the devil's work. This is a real thing. When are kids best behave? When they're occupied. When do they start coloring the walls? When you have give them nothing to color. So the more tasks
Or
you
they're
get,
just a fucking toddler and they start drawing on the floor, as my youngest did last night, just randomly, which my eldest never ever did. But anyway,
she
the
must have got
second
that
born
from
are the
you.
crazy ones. You're the second born. You were the
I am the
second born,
second
right?
born. Of course.
Yes,
Look
yeah,
at me.
definitely.
Look
Yeah,
at
of
me.
course
Of
you are.
course.
Yeah, of
Yes.
course.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think if you can find a way to integrate the things you love into your life in a way that complements the things that are, challenging or
Yeah.
have a lot of friction around, do it.
Yeah.
It's fine. You're sedentary. You're not getting enough steps because you're always watching YouTube. Cool. Get a walking pad and be on YouTube while you're getting your steps in. You can do both. This is your
Yeah.
famous saying. It's not this or, it's this and. Have the
Mm.
wine and plan. Think of how much more creative you're going to be in that circumstance.
You're going to look forward to it. You're going to sit down with your husband. You can put something on the TV to distract the kids for half an hour. That's, to me, what Netflix is for. It's for distracting the kids while it's like basically it's a cheap babysitter, essentially, while the parents are doing stuff that they can't be distracted by the kids with. So put something on Netflix for half an hour, distract the kids, pour a glass of wine for you, pour a glass for your husband, spend 20, 30 minutes planning out the week. Maybe you think, okay, you watch the kids on this evening while I work out, and then I'll watch the kids for you on that evening while you work out. Make
Simple.
a plan. Minimize how much it feels like a chore by having a glass of wine while you're doing it. That's a good plan. I like that. And imagine how much easier your day's going to be, where you wake up and you know exactly what breakfast is going to be, and it's going to be really easy to make. And you have given your kid just 2 options for the breakfast. And you know who's going to take which kid where. No decisions. It's just going to get done. And you know, okay, I'm going to be getting my steps at this time, at this place, because it's in my calendar. I know I've got time for my workout blocked off. I know what my lunch is going to be. We know what dinner's going to be. So that I know that if we're going to be taking the kids to places after work, we've got to either hit start on the Instant Pot at this particular time, or we know where to order from, where we're going to be able to maybe get like a healthier, lower calorie option for takeout. And you've made the plan in advance.
What this reminded me of was the reason why Uber is such a a dominating force in like the rideshare world is because when it first came out, it gave users the ability to be able to see when their ride is going to show up. Remember the days when you would call a cab and just like hope this thing was coming?
Yeah.
Now you can see
Yeah.
exactly where they are, what the estimated time is, how long it's going to take you to get to your route based on traffic. Like, this is why, because it helps sort that unknown of what's going to be happening, right? That anxiety is fear of the unknown of the future or rehashing the past. And it's both in this case is where, because in the past you haven't had a plan, it makes you scared of the future of, okay, this day can go sideways at any point because it's just triage all day versus, okay, this is all well planned out. I know that the place that I'm going to get my lunch from is not far from my meeting that's just before that. So you can plan that out and you have the ability to do that because you schedule so much of your day anyway. All you have to do, and not to make it so simple, but all you have to do is look ahead and see around those
Yeah.
corners for yourself. And it reduces that mental load and anxiety too much. If you haven't tried, just try it for this week. Just for 1 week,
Mm.
try it. See what it's like.
Yeah. That is such a valid point that you made about the success of Uber and Uber Eats and similar delivery services that people just don't realize. It's having that time I mean, when I say time, it's knowing when it's going to arrive and remove the anxiety. That is potentially the biggest reason for its success.
Mhm.
Removal of the lack of certainty. Okay, I'm
Exactly.
like, is the Uber going to come? What time is it going to come? When's my food going to be delivered? I've got no idea. And getting food and like waiting for food, like before you would have had to maybe like sit within earshot of the front door. Whereas now you can think, okay, it's not going to arrive for like 35 minutes. I can go in the backyard for the next 30 minutes and then come back in when there's 5 minutes left. Yeah. And you're going into each day with a plan. And as you're hearing, this is not a complicated plan that we're talking about. We're talking about, blocking off time in your calendar to go for a walk. It's planning what you're going to have for lunch because you know what options are around where your office is. It's thinking on a Sunday, okay, we're going to be stretched for time on this particular evening, taking the kids to the various activities. So we need to think now of a way of still eating healthy in a way that's not going to require a ton of cooking that evening. It's doing the creative problem solving up front. And yeah, you're not going to be perfect because no plan is perfect, and that's okay. But the day's going to go a shit ton better than it otherwise would have done.
Yeah, the worst time to try to solve a problem is when you're in the problem.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, coach. Awesome. Well, thank you for listening. If you enjoyed it, please give us a 5-star review or a like on on whatever platform you are watching this, listen to this. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening, everybody.